Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping guns and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais. Andrew and Nick are on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. So we're going to try to do the administrative work as quickly as humanly possible. Welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast, by the way. We have a little bit to cover. At least one of these topics is not really thought out because it happened to me 5 hours ago, and I'm still like figuring out how we could have done that better, which Nick's going to help me with. But first and foremost, patrons, thank you all for supporting the show. Thanks for keeping the wheels on this buzz. Sometimes it's on fire. Usually it's going downhill at a high rate of speed, but thanks for keeping the wheels on.
The fire's on purpose.
If it isn't, we're certainly going to allege that it is.
Right?
Merch. If you're into hilarious t-shirts and 6 cents of humor, the merch is a good place to look. Those links are in the show description. And Cypress Survivalist, March 8th, Southeast Louisiana, in the vicinity of Mandeville. If you're into preparedness, if you would like to meet yours truly and my wife and my brother-in-law and my sister who are members of Cypress Survivalist, if you want an in-person dose of a lot of the things we talk about in the show, y'all should look that up. Those links are also in the show description. That's 2 minutes dead. That's the fastest we've ever done admin work. I'm getting better at this.
It's a new record. You are. Congratulations.
Well, yeah, I just have to not talk as much, which is the tricky part for me.
That's fine.
So you said you wanted to talk about news. What's
new
in the world?
And the question mark is purposeful because I don't know if it really is news that California is insane, but here is yet another example of California's insanity, and it does apply to this show. So back in 2019, the LA Department of Water and Power was attempting to replace some nearly 100-year-old power lines that were going through a state park in the area of the recent Palisades fire. Apparently, I will call it amateur botanist was traveling through the area and noticed that they had done a no-no and had stepped on some endangered plants. According to, what is this, New York Post, it is Branton's milkweed plant. There's some kind of flowering shrub. Anyway, they destroyed approximately 200 of these plants, and because of that, they had to cease their project, do a bunch of remediation, and never finished fixing all of the power lines that were known to be a fire hazard in the area where the Palisades fire, the largest fire in LA's history, has happened.
Is this a moment where I remind people that you don't detest bureaucrats enough?
No one detests bureaucrats enough, and that's saying a lot.
I mean, that sounds like a challenge given your company, Nick. Like, most of us believe that we should try throwing politicians into volcanoes to sacrifice them for good weather.
Just annually.
I mean, there's no downside to it. What's the worst that could happen? Nothing. And that's still not bad. That's entertaining, at least.
Right. You know, this just goes to show what is it Mike Shelby that talks about the area studies all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You need to not just do area studies of the people and the places. You need to do area studies of the politicians and their history of decisions. This happened in 2019. Here we are 6 years later. Chickens have come home to roost. 5,000 buildings are destroyed, and I believe a number of people died in this fire as well.
Mm-hmm.
So not only has 200 endangered tiny shrubs cost us 5,000 buildings, uncounted to the extent of my knowledge, uncounted dollars in property damage, and several people's lives. But
Fraggle knows where it's at.
Yeah.
And who knows? The gods may be appeased.
Right. The gods may be appeased. We don't know. I mean, it still hasn't gotten me completed Star Citizen, but that's an entirely different podcast. So, you know, Phil, you brought up when we were talking before the show that this is kind of another in a long line of things we see out of California, like the fire trucks you brought up.
Yeah, apparently another state donated a number of fire trucks to the to the effort. And apparently those fire trucks got detoured for mandatory emissions testing before being allowed to go and fight the fire. And I'm not here to tell a person what they should believe or how to vote. Like I believe in freedom and self-imposed accountability. Like if you want the fire trucks to detour from coming to save your house to go get smog testing, cool beans, go forward, do great things. Like that is totally up to you. However, if ever there is a fire threatening my house and a politician stops those trucks for any reason at all, I'm going to be annoyed.
I could
So
understand them stopping them if there was a danger to life.
you'd like a fire?
Well, sure, yeah, but I mean, sometimes you got to stop fire trucks because stupid people won't get their cars out of the way. I mean, these things happen, but I'm
No, that's
sorry.
when you just push the cars into off the road.
And I'm sure the firefighters would love that. I've seen
Uh,
the aftermath of what happens when you park a Beamer in front of a fire hydrant on an active fire setting.
they will move it. That
Oh
big
no!
old
Oh no! Even better, they put the hose through the car. Jaws of life into the door, pry it open, and then bill you for the hose that your door cut.
Yeah. Let me just give y'all that little bit of intel if you're thinking about parking in a fire lane or in front of a fire hydrant. Uh, Firefighters literally live. They spend their entire careers waiting for the day when they get to use a Halligan tool and an axe to open up your car like a tin can to make a point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not saying don't give it to them. Just know what you're getting into. Like they view you parking in front of that fire hydrant as a challenge.
Congratulations.
And they're going to tell that story for literal ever after they do it.
And your insurance company will not be paying for it. And neither will the fire department.
They will be less than amused, let's say.
For sure.
So workplace emergencies. So about 5 hours ago now, no, 4.5 hours. Anyway, so this afternoon, I had to go to New Orleans for an all hands meeting at work. Had the entire body there. It's been quite a while since we've gotten everybody together. And in addition to all that, I bumped into a couple of coworkers that like I haven't seen in person in a very long time. And we were catching up, chewing the fat, shooting the breeze. And during this, one of those coworkers passed the F out in front of me. Now, I know this coworker and she has a medical condition that kind of makes this happen every now and then, but this is the first time it's ever happened at work. And needless to say, I was concerned when she just like passed smooth out in front of me. But as I was talking to Nick about the situation and what we did, how we reacted, and like how coworkers of mine that were involved reacted, I thought it merited a discussion because I can't imagine that a workplace incident that requires immediate action is that far out of bounds for the average person. Like if you work long enough, sooner or later you're going to have an incident at work that requires some immediate action.
Yeah, be it an accident or just a medical emergency like you had today. I mean, I work in manufacturing. The equipment is dangerous. People can get hurt.
People do get hurt.
People do. Usually due to their own carelessness.
Yeah. So in this case, like, and I haven't been faced with this exact situation too much in the past, like, but in this situation, you have an unconscious person on the ground. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, she had the presence of mind to like crouch down because she felt it coming and didn't just fall over like a tree, but she fell over and passed out. So like my immediate reaction was to put her onto her side, kind of like tuck her knees up a little bit, put her in the rescue position. That way, if she vomited, she wouldn't have sprayed on it. Try to keep her airway clear, try to keep her down and stable and still, because when a person passes out, they can start flailing around a little bit. When they start to come to, they could seize, all kinds of things are happening. So I wouldn't say that was like a conscious thought, like, oh, I need to put her in the rescue position. Honestly, it was just like baked in, I don't know, probably a result of military training. But like, I know when you have a person that's unconscious, That's what you're supposed to do with them.
Absolutely.
So I put her into that position, like had my hand on her head, had my other hand on her shoulders. I had control over her. At this moment, a friend of mine who was with me immediately called to somebody else and said, "You call 911 or call EMS," which is one thing that has been impressed upon me. And for the sake of discussion, my friend who was there, the third friend in this discussion, is also a military veteran. He's an Air Force vet. So
Okay.
I know that there's those overlaps in our medical training. Like we both come from the military perspective. And in the midst of all of this, like he did what is all step one is always deal with the patient. Step two is always identify a person who is supposed to call EMS, because it's been in after action reports. We've seen situations where like you got 6 people standing around and you assume I'm going to deal with the patient. One of y'all is going to call EMS, and then all 6 of them stare at each other because they're all waiting for one of them to call EMS.
Bystander effect.
Yeah. So what's always
pretty
been
well documented.
So what's always been impressed upon me, and what my friend did was say, you pointed at somebody, made eye contact, got them to acknowledge and said, you call EMS, so that it is on that one person. It is that one person's responsibility. If that doesn't happen, it's your fault.
Yep.
And to simply short circuit bystander effect, she immediately got on the phone and started calling for help.
Perfect.
What I realized afterwards, and you and I were talking about this, but like my workplace is in this weird transitionary period where we've been working remote, kind of a leftover from COVID. We are working towards a return to office, return to physical office posture. And we are also in the middle of moving facilities. So the person who got tapped to make the call, I didn't recognize her. I think she's fairly new. She didn't immediately know who to call. So she made a judgment call and call 911, which is never the wrong answer.
It's not a bad call.
But like you and I were talking about, this facility has on facility medical options and on facility security. Like we have our own assets there on site. And if those assets had been called, they could have gotten to us a little quicker. But eventually, St. Bernard Parish Fire Department and a Acadian ambulance right behind them all made the trip in. And to their credit, the front gate, when they see EMS rolling up, they don't ask questions. They just say, "Where are you trying to go? Let me point you in the right direction." Like we will figure out why you're here once you get there.
The correct answer, because otherwise the firemen are also going to have fun with your gate. Yeah.
So like I said, I mean, within a fairly short amount of time, we had EMS on site. My whole thing is, as soon as I see professionals, I am taking a step back. I'm letting y'all do what y'all do. I stayed close, which was a necessary thing, because by this time, my friend who had passed out was still a little off kilter, still a little, she wasn't really incoherent or confused. She was very weak. And she didn't have an accurate understanding of what had happened, because like she thought she was only like out for a second. I knew she was out for 30 seconds, things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So like the one thing I could tell y'all is that in an emergency situation, like, to me, the priorities are deal with the immediate patients, render aid, and turn on your memory recorder, because everything that happened is going to be pertinent at some point. EMS is going to need to know everything you know about the incident before they showed up. All of that helps them triage the patient. And really simple things like, well, she was passed out for 5 seconds, or she was passed out for 30 seconds, or did she hit her head, or was she already supine when she went with lights out? All those things get really important to EMS. They want to know all that, like they were there when it happened. So if you can be a good witness, that helps EMS treat the patient.
Absolutely does.
And that also applies, like, even if it's not a medical incident, if it's any kind of emergency incident, being a good witness helps a lot, just to turn your brain on and like notice what's going on and be able to retell it later. The other thing that really wasn't an issue for me or for my friend, because again, both of us military veterans, was neither one of us got really upset. Neither one of us got, was freaked out. Neither one of us was losing our crap. We both just kind of like very calmly took control of the situation, took control of her, took control of everybody around us. And once the professional showed up, we just said, "Hey, this is the situation. This is what we know. Where do you need us?"
It's the benefit of good training.
Yeah.
You guys have
Yeah, but
had reps. You know what to do when someone's unconscious. You've trained for it multiple times. I'm sure you've taken a first aid class since you got out of the military.
actually I haven't.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, time to update.
I know. It's on my list of things to do,
The
but
never-ending list. Dude, I get it, man.
I haven't had a professional firearms or medical class since I was enlisted. So
Mm,
it's been 20 years. Although I was telling you about it, like to me, the part of this whole situation to me that is kind of interesting to me, and it probably is going to be a no duh to most people, is like I slipped back into that mindset of deal with the emergency, put everything else on hold without thought.
mhm.
Like it didn't even occur to me to be worried about my friend passed out, what if
Right.
she's okay? That didn't even occur to me until I got home. It wasn't
Hmm.
until she was dealt with, she was home with her husband. Every decision I made from the moment she said, I don't feel good until I came home after the whole thing was dealt with was pure autopilot. It wasn't conscious thought. It was this needs to happen, go step A, step B, step C, step D. And then somewhere down the line, I got to, oh, Jesus, I really would love a bourbon and Coke and to sit here for 5 minutes in the quiet.
Yep. But that's exactly what I was referencing earlier. That is what happens when you get good, consistent training and you can process that training fully. I mean, if you don't have the training, it's just like not understanding how a tool works. Your brain doesn't see the object as a tool until it knows how that thing works and knows what it does. So, you know,
No, I mean,
good
it makes
argument for getting
complete
trained.
sense. No, it makes complete sense. I mean, quite frankly, the end result of this situation is while it is fresh on people's mind, I am probably going to see if I can't lean on senior leadership about because I know at some point several years back we had following an active shooter training, we got some advice from the instructor that did not get utilized that he
Mm,
consider hosting a stop the bleed class at our facility and admit 5 to 10% of the staff.
sure.
Like that was the instructor's position was you don't need a single person with a medical bag. You need in a 600-man facility, you need 50 or 60 people with a tourniquet under their desk and the
Yeah.
knowledge of how to use it, and that's going to be much more useful to you. So
Yeah.
now I'm wondering to myself, like, is this the moment in time to through my boss, obviously, because
Mhm.
I ain't calling the front office willy nilly. But is
Right.
this the moment in time to like reach out through my boss and be like, look, this is y'all know what happened. You got the reports, but there's an opportunity here to learn from this and make this staff better able to deal with the situation in the future. We're lucky that this happened with an army and an air force vet on hand who both have some level of medical training, both have some level of deal with emergency situations. We are lucky that it was the two of us who were
And
standing there who were able to control the situation and get resources inbound. But if it had been two 22-year-old kids fresh out of college who didn't have our life experience, would we have gotten the same outcome?
you're lucky it was the medical condition that it was, and that it was a known and non-life threatening condition.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys got as lucky as you can possibly get when it comes to a medical emergency like that. I mean, I'm sure you have some people in your workforce that are, they're pushing 50, 60, getting close to retirement like that. Heart attack's not out of line.
I mean, in the 12 years I've worked at this place, I couldn't even tell you. It's been dozens. We've
Yeah,
had people wheeled out of there in ambulances. Most of the time they come back,
sure.
but we've had people wheeled out of there in ambulances. I mean, there was one week we had 3 in a week. I was
Oof,
really I
that's a
was starting
bad
to one
week.
I was starting to wonder if there was LSD in the water supply or something because like
Mm,
we had 3 people in a week get carted out by ambulances.
That's not good. That's
No,
not
but
ideal.
But the problem is when that much of your workforce is like approaching 65, frankly, you get into that situation where
You do.
you're in a target rich environment.
Mm-hmm.
Put it that way.
Unfortunately, that is how that works. I mean, the older you get, you're just kind of waiting for something to go wrong, either biologically or accident. The
Yeah.
statistics are kind of against you at that point.
So yeah, that might be my own personal after action report to talk to my boss about and try to take to the front office. And just the way my brain works is always, first of all, it always goes to how bad could this have been, which I'm thankful that this wasn't. But my other thought is like, okay, what were the lessons to be learned from this? And the lessons to be learned to me are the person who initiated trying to get help. They got help. They got help as quickly as they could. We might have had an option to get help a little faster had that been better communicated, and it hadn't even been better. And I'm guilty of that too, because I feel like now I should have had that number like saved in my phone where I could have told her call this number.
Probably.
Hindsight's 2020, but when you consider the fact that I work remote 95% of the time, most of the time if I have a medical emergency, it's here in this office, and I call 911 and I tell them I live at this, that, and the other in Mandeville.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I mean, I can make excuses for it, but what it really boils down to is there are lessons to be learned here so that we're better able to take care of the staff, and especially going back to fiscal office presence. I think this might be the opportune time to like point out to senior leadership, like, hey, these are things we need to cover with the whole staff as we go back into this posture. A, because that information is all changing because our facility is changing, but also B, because we've proven the staff doesn't know.
Yeah,
we've proven that now.
At least the new staff doesn't know,
which is probably a quarter of the agency.
Okay, then that is an unacceptable number. To me, that's an unacceptable number.
Yeah.
If 25% of the staff where I work did not know where the fire extinguishers were, which I think is equivalent, that would be a serious problem.
To be fair, I don't know where the fire extinguishers are because I've been in the new building exactly one time and I don't know where they are yet. So
but that's different, though. You haven't been in the building.
But it's the same end result,
that I
I guess,
work with
what
have
I'm
been
saying.
working there for multiple years.
But I guess what I'm saying is it's the same end result.
It is.
We all, the entire staff has to have this briefing and has to have this knowledge because we're going into a facility where we're all going to be sitting there singing Kumbaya and holding hands. We're going to have to know how to take care of each other if something bad happens.
Absolutely.
So anyway, 20 minutes into the show, we finally get to what we set out to talk about. That wasn't oh, by the way, something happened today at work and I just felt the need to decompress about it. So I cannot do this is my boomstick impression. I'm not even going to try. Like I might have attempted yesterday, but after the afternoon I've had, this is the best you get as a banner and this is my boomstick. And if you don't know where that quote's from, you lived an awful sheltered childhood and I'm disappointed in your parents. You should watch Army of Darkness with your spouse or yourself if you don't have a spouse.
Watch the entire Evil Dead series. They are just
true.
Peak terrible horror movies.
There is a line where terrible turns into amazing, though, which is about where
an art piece. It is an art piece.
Come to think of it, I bet my wife has never seen Evil Dead. I
have to rectify this immediately.
That's gonna okay. So, but let me throw her under the bus.
Watch Evil Dead. If I remember correctly, it's fairly child friendly.
Let me throw my wife under the bus before we can get into this topic. My wife and I were talking about like awesome movies and everything she was naming was like goofy chick flicks and crap that I'm never going to watch. And I was like, yeah, well, you really can't call yourself a human being unless you've seen Blade Runner. And she got this blank look on her face. And I was like, no,
must
you
must
haven't?
Watch now.
What's Blade Runner? I'm like, and we've had that decision point several times in our relationship, even before we got married, where there was like some peak cyberpunk sci-fi nerdy bullcrap, like peak movie, and she had never even heard of it. Road Warrior, Blade Runner, like my entire childhood just skated right past my wife.
Race? Tell me she's seen Death Race.
Which one?
2000.
Okay.
Not the new one. The new one's dumb.
Okay, but there's a segment of the audience out there that does not realize that David Carradine starred in a Death Race movie,
Did
and it is infinitely better than the one that Jason Statham starred
so
in.
much better.
Oh, look.
The hand grenade alone, just for that pun.
Oh, Gillian said I knew about Blade Runner, but you haven't seen it, have you?
She needs to watch it. It's required watching.
I mean, anyway. And Raggle Fraggle said, I saw the new one, not the old one. Listen
Dude,
to me,
go
sir.
back. Watch him. Watch
Death Race 2000 is
probably not with your kids, though.
No, you should not watch it with your kids. There's lots of like at least semi-nudity involved.
If not just straight up softcore pornography.
I don't remember like full frontal, but definitely some boobies flopping around.
Yeah.
I mean, it was filmed in the 70s, guys. Like, you know, cultural norms at the time and everything.
Cocaine
there was a lot of drugs going around.
Yeah,
but I have to admit the cars steal the show because like
they do. Like they're phenomenal.
The cars are the most caricatured nonsense on earth, and the characters driving the cars are the most caricatured nonsense on earth. The movie is amazing in the fact that it does not even attempt to take itself seriously. It is
not
ridiculous.
Not even close. Oh, it's fantastic.
Anyway,
Shotguns.
Stuart said, of course, I drop in when you're talking about porn. But what's the difference, really?
Some cars are a form of pornography. I will allow
it. I'm just saying. Okay, but anyway, this is my boomstick. So I've talked a few times about the fact that I got bullied into buying a shotgun, and I'm going to hold to the fact that I got bullied into it. None of you can talk me out of it. I was bullied. I did it as self-preservation instinct. But that being said, I've done what I normally do with shotguns, and I like committed myself to learning everything humanly possible about them, reading tons of articles, reading tons of information, asking other nerd friends of mine, looking at you, Nick, questions that I don't know the answers to because I just wanted to learn everything about a subject. Hallelujah for unchecked, unmedicated ADHD. It's a thing. Look,
it's perfect. It's exactly what we need in this situation.
What, the ability to obsessively and compulsively learn everything about a subject until you're exhausted with it?
Yeah, exactly. Spend exactly, 3 weeks to 90 days, depending on how bad it hits. Learn every single possible thing you can and go, I'm missing many things. And then pull out the adult credit card.
So my wife is questioning whether or not I was bullied, and Stuart is saying shamed, not bullied. Okay, I was shamed, not bullied.
Shaming is a kind of bullying.
Shaming is a kind of bullying. Thank you, Nick.
It's the best kind.
Reason I liked you.
It's the best kind of bullying. It's productive.
Well, it worked. I did eventually
produce a shotgun.
I did end up buying a Beretta A300, but that leads us down the rabbit hole that we were about to commit ourselves to. So I figure we start off with like the great debate, first of all, of pumps versus semis. And I'm gonna
over under versus side by side versus single shot.
Oh, I guess let's just expand the mother effing topic. Like, are we talking about home defense use, or are we talking about general preparedness use where you need using for a bird gun or whatever else? Like, define the rules of engagement.
At this point, we can classify into two things. Are you having a shotgun for entertaining yourself, or are you having a shotgun for serious use?
Yes.
Personally, side by sides, over and unders, and single shots are no longer really serious use unless you're using like a single shot rifled shotgun for hunting in a jurisdiction that only allows for something like that. Pumps and semi-auto shotguns have come to the point where they outclass most of the rest of that category. If you want to dress up as Doc Holliday in a full leather duster with a side-by-side, more power to you. I'll help you find the hat. Oh, Chappas. Yeah. Wasn't that in Stargate Atlantis too?
Didn't
Chappa have a hand in that?
For the audio listeners, we have to read the comment. Draggle Fraggle said, "Don't forget Chiapa's 3-barrel atrocity." I'm kind of okay with it, to be perfectly honest.
I'll allow it. It's cool.
I'm wondering
it looks
why
great.
I'm wondering why they didn't make a 4-barrel one.
Too heavy. The 3-barrel was already insanely heavy. Right. Yeah.
Don't be a girl. Grow
one
muscles.
One of our. Come on, I could probably outlift you. Jeff brings up a good point. At that point, just buy a drilling. Exactly. If you're going to buy, you're in a restricted area, and you can only buy one weapon, a drilling's not a bad way to go.
Okay, there's a portion of the audience
plus rifled barrel.
I was about to say there's a portion of the audience that doesn't know what a drilling is, so we have to define terms.
Look up Forgotten Weapons. There's plenty of drillings on that.
Just look up Forgotten Weapons and just play it. Like, that whole channel is peak entertainment.
True. Look, as far as the discussion, pumps versus semis, most semi-automatics, most modern semi-automatic shotguns now have gotten to the point where they perform as reliably as a pump action shotgun, and they remove part of the human error factor. Phil, I don't know how much you've shot a pump shotgun. I pretty much exclusively shot pump shotguns until I got my A300. What about you?
I mean, I'd never touched a semi-auto before I got my A300, but I've also never been much of a shotgun person. So my shotgun experience has been pretty much constricted to, like, a buddy of mine saying, "Hey, let's go shoot some clays," or "Let's go goof off and shoot this abandoned car," or whatever, like, so I've shot pump actions before. I've never owned one. I've never seriously trained with one. I've always been more of a rifle guy personally.
The one downfall I found with pump action shotguns myself is when I'm under a time constraint, I have a tendency to short stroke a pump shotgun.
That sounds like a personal problem.
It is. It's a training issue. And I didn't like shooting shotguns because I was never taught to shoot them correctly.
You missed the innuendo, but go ahead.
Oh, I know. I let that one slide. Anyway, what you can create a pretty catastrophic malfunction if you short stroke your shotgun. If you do not complete the full rearward action, full forward action, you can jam up a pump shotgun pretty good. That's what usually tripped me up in 3-gun matches, the little bit that I did shoot them. You don't have that user error problem with semi-automatic shotguns. And I think if you've never owned a shotgun, if you've never shot a shotgun, I don't think there's a good reason to not buy a semi-auto. Semi-auto.
Other than cost.
Sure. Yeah, sure. But all things being equal, if budget allows for it, I would say a semi-auto. But the semi-autos, like your A300, what'd that run you?
Tax title license, $1,100.
Yeah, I think I was like $850 because I got a pretty good deal on mine.
Yeah, I got trying to put a friend's kids through college deal. I wasn't complaining.
Sure, yeah, you weren't looking for sales, but like I don't know what a Remington 870 Express even costs right now. Let's look at sticker price.
I'm just waiting for you to see the
stickers, like $600, $500. Pouring cars and short stroking, correct. You missed Warhammer and bourbon.
Yeah, that's
all right. I've got a wide range of topics, but $400 or $500 for a reliable pump shotgun.
No, I'll fight you on this. Maverick 88.
Okay,
$200. $250 if you got to pay full freight for it.
If you are on the ultra super slim budget, which fair enough, there are people out there that probably are. $200 Maverick 88. I will never disparage that shotgun. That shotgun is extremely reliable. I forget it exists because I compulsively buy not super cheap guns.
So the thing about the Maverick 88 to me is like if you are between buying one of the $200 Turk Nelly specials, and a Maverick 88, I would say get the freaking Maverick 88 every single time, because
you can get parts, you can get service, you can get a warranty. Those Turkish guns, some of them are great. Some of them are really terrible.
Joe, to answer your question, the Maverick 88, Mossberg.
Joe,
to answer your question, the Maverick 88, Mossberg.
Yep.
Same guys that make the 590. That's just their cheap version of it. It's
the fit and finish is worse.
Oh no,
ones that I've seen.
It is an appliance. It is not pretty.
It
is not nice. It is not cute. It does not have like all the cool bells and whistles on it. You will not impress your friends with it, but it will absolutely freaking go bang every time you pull the trigger, point blank and period.
And you can damn sure bet it'll kill somebody just as well as a 1301.
110%. So that's why I say if you're back and forth between the cheapest freaking the cheapest freaking, semi-auto you can find, which is going to be in that $200 range, or a Mossberg Maverick 88, the Mossberg will run. The Turknelli, questionable.
I don't know. Joe did ask, is it like a old school 500? I do not know. I know it's a Mossberg action, but I'm not sure which one it is.
It is a Mossberg action and I haven't stripped the two of them side by side, so I couldn't tell you 100%. But from my understanding, the Maverick 88 was a simplification and a cost-saving exercise based on the 590. So it is every corner we could cut in this shotgun without making the reliability go down. So, like, if that's what you're looking for, bargain basement, it'll run. I think the Maverick 88 makes a good point. If
Stuart says it is the old 500 action, just slightly simplified.
Okay. Like I said, I didn't want to make that assertion just because until I can rip the two of them apart side by side, I don't want to make that assertion.
And the Mossberg 500 was phenomenal.
Yeah. Now, to answer Raggle Fraggle, why not the 1301? So I'm not going to debate that the 1301 might be a superior firearm to an A300. I'm not going to debate that. I think there is a debate to be had, but I think that what you're getting in an A300 is 90% of the capabilities of a 1301 at about 60% of the cost. So where I always come from, not just firearms, but with everything, is I overlay like this cost versus value or performance graph, and wherever the two intersect is usually where I buy. I'm not going to spend a ton more money for a marginal increase in performance. I'm not going to sacrifice a lot of performance to save a couple of bucks. I look for the sweet spot in the middle where everything seems to make sense. And to me, the A300 is that. The limited experience I've had with it at this point, having only owned it for a couple of months, it has digested everything I have stuffed into it without complaint. It has never given me a bit of trouble. It is honestly softer shooting than I thought it was going to be, coming from pump action 12 gauges. It's not that difficult to strip and to clean and to reassemble. I really don't have a lot of issues with the A300. Raggle Fraggle said, I see a lot of the 1301 as aftermarket support, but here's my thing. Most of the stuff you can put on a 1301 also works on an A300.
Except for the stock.
Now, here's the thing.
That's the big difference.
And this is why I chose the A300 instead of 1301. I, not mad at y'all, not even disappointed. Personal preference. I detest pistol grip shotguns.
Same.
Detest them. Do not like them. Do not like how they feel to shoot. I like nothing about handling them whatsoever, and I have handled a fair bit of them. I don't like anything about them. It feels weird to me. Couldn't tell you why. Maybe a training scar. Maybe I'm just a FUD in the making. I don't know, and I don't care. I like nothing about pistol grip shotguns whatsoever. If you do, cool beans. I'm not mad at you. But I will never own one. And when you remove, I'd really like to put a pistol grip, stock on this shotgun from the equation. The A300 and the 1301 really stack up pretty closely against each other.
They do.
If you're the person that really wants to have like the baby, Benelli M4, you need the 1301. Your options for putting a pistol grip stock on an A300 are very, very constricted, and I don't think that great.
I have not found an aftermarket stock for the A300.
I found one.
Okay.
I could hunt it down again and show you and send you the link if you're really curious. I found.
I'm not looking for a pistol grip one. I'd like a stock that's a little more that feels a little more durable than the one that's on there. That is my one gripe
Yeah.
about the A300.
And see,
Other
I
than the
haven't.
placement of the sling swivel in the back, the sling stud location in the back, it's not great.
No, I actually have some solutions for the sling swivel in the back, but I'll be honest, using the factory one that's on the toe of the stock,
Mhm.
I really haven't had a lot of gripes. I mean, it's not optimal, but it works.
It
I
does.
get
It works. It's like I said, it's a minor gripe that I will probably address at some point. But until then, I just had to change how tight I like to run my sling to make it work. So,
yeah. But
but you know, I was
insofar
in
as
a
aftermarket
go ahead.
support for the A300, the truth of the matter is that like if you want to change the fore end, if you want to put a red dot on it, if you want to put a sling on it, if you want to put side saddle carriers, most of the things you would want to do to a 1301, you can do to an A300.
Mhm.
The number of things you can only do to a 1301 if you like to aftermarket modify your firearms that you cannot do to an A300 is a very, very narrow list.
It is.
So,
And
and
performance wise, there is a slight edge to the 1301. The lock to
100,
lock time on the blink action is faster.
no
It is.
argument. But if you can't pull the trigger and hold on target well
You and
enough to
I
take advantage of it,
can't. You and I
so that,
cannot at this point.
yeah, I am not the illegitimate son of Jerry Mitchell as much as that bothers me.
Right. That'd be great, especially with his ammo budget. My God.
Yeah,
But,
the best part
I
is
was in a
that
class with a bunch of guys running 1301s, 2 guys running Benellis, 1 guy running a trench gun. Andrew was running his 1301, and I was running my A300. There was not a single drill that I was falling behind on because of the gun. I was always the problem.
but isn't it the way with like almost every class is that
Sure.
the so when I was younger, I used to autocross a lot, so a lot of like
Mhm.
my analogies come from the car world, but we always used to say that 90% of the problem is the loose nut behind the wheel.
It's true. I mean,
Yeah,
if you get to the point where you are outrunning your A300, great. You've put in enough reps that shotgun has paid for itself. It doesn't owe you anything. Upgrade. But realistically, with the recoil on a 12 gauge, even if you're mitigating it correctly the way you should, using like a rip it or a push pull or however you want to whatever you want to call it, style recoil mitigation, you're probably not getting back on target before that action has fully cycled anyway.
very unlikely, to be perfectly honest.
I've
All
yet to
right.
outrun it. Ammo.
So yeah, I was looking around to see if I actually had like a box of shotgun shells lying around, which I think they're all put away. I do have a case sitting over there, but I really don't feel like having to, pick it up and bring it over here.
To quote a few different YouTube personalities and Trek, shotguns are a thinking man's gun. Number one, because of the low magazine capacity, and number two, ammo selection. You guys that are in the Patreon group, you saw that I just recently got a couple of big boxes. In fact, it filled the backseat of my pickup full of mixed miscellaneous ammunition for shotguns.
And I'm pretty sure
Uh,
I said F you.
You
Just,
did. You were a little upset with me. To be fair, though, like 300 rounds of that was like 3-inch plus magnums that I cannot shoot. So those are getting sent down the river to somebody else I know who really hates themselves.
that's not the rule. That means you're obligated to buy a new firearm.
No,
You know
I
this.
found a home for them before the 7-day window.
Okay, I'll give you that.
But no, eventually I will probably sort that out. But look, I have no use for a 3-inch shotgun. I really don't. I know people that own
Now,
3-inch shotguns that use them. Now, yeah, give it time. But no, shotguns, the great thing about shotguns is the variety of ammunition. I mean, you can have stuff like this. This is a 1-ounce slug. So a solid 1-ounce lead projectile. Winchester surplus military overrun 0.9 pellet.
have you shot any of that out of your A300 yet?
Shockingly consistent.
Isn't
Shockingly
it though?
consistent. At 7 yards, everything was in the 8 ring on a standard IPSC torso target, which For those of you that don't know, it's like, figure like what's your plate spread in your armor. So like a 10-inch diameter circle, which yes, no, you could argue that that's bad, but I don't have a 7-yard distance in my house where I will be using my home defense shotgun for home defense. If I am shooting at someone outside of the house, that's what this different round is for. That's another 1 ounce slug.
So, as a point of order, I paced off my house.
Mhm.
The distance from my bedroom to my front door is 7 yards.
Perfect.
And my A300 likes those Winchester milsurps better than yours does because it'll keep all those
Not
pellets
surprising.
in a 9 ring at that range.
Really? Interesting.
Now, the longest shot I could possibly take in my house from my bedroom to my refrigerator is just shy of 15 yards. And at that range,
Okay.
it'll still keep all 9 of those pellets in the 7 ring.
That's worthwhile.
So this is part of the reason why, like, again, admittedly, being very ignorant and owing to a lot of tutelage from you and from other patrons who know more about shotguns than I do, I started really digging into this idea of like the shotgun is a payload delivery system. The ammunition is what allows you to kind of like make this thing meet all these different needs.
Yep.
And I got really hyper focused on, okay, real world examples. What are the distances in my house?
Mhm.
And how devastating is the shotgun at those ranges? And when I realized I was talking about 7 and 14 yards in my house, and 14 yards is the longest shot I could possibly take in my house, I realized that 12 gauge is the most devastating home defense firearm in my arsenal by a wide margin. Because
Shooting double aught, you're getting 930 caliber pellets, unless you're using Federal Flight Control 8 pellet, which if you can find it, buy it, load it, test it in your shotgun, you'll love it. It's like it patterns like a slug. 930 caliber projectiles in one trigger pull.
Trauma element, don't beat me to the punchline.
We'll
So
get to that.
so like that's been my observation is that at what I can say are home defense ranges because I've measured my own house. 12 gauge double aught 9 pellet buckshot is going to put more anger onto a target than anything else I can bring into a fight. And this is from a guy who's been a rifle guy his entire life. And I can tell you that the payload delivery capabilities of a 12 gauge have impressed me so much that I could honestly say inside of a house, I might grab that 12 gauge before I grab anything else at this point.
The only thing that I would say that makes an argument is you live in a state where suppressors can be had.
I don't own any.
I know, but I'm saying if a guy did own a suppressor, and if a guy did have a short-barreled AR to put that on, either an AR pistol or an SBR, that would be king. Simply because you're not going to have time to don hearing protection. I don't know about you, but I've had 12 gauge popped off near me when I didn't have ear pro on. It sucks. That was outside. Do not want inside.
I mean, what's a ruptured eardrum next to
right,
a home
which
invasion?
I will take that choice any day. Fair enough. But if I had the option to use an AR with a suppressor for my home defense platform, 100% yes, I would. But my state sucks.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I keep offering to help you find a house down here. You keep bitching about the mosquitoes and the heat and stuff.
Between the mosquitoes, the humidity, my wife not wanting to be that far from family.
Okay,
you can imagine which one's worse.
I can't help with not wanting to be far from family, but I'll act like her crazy older brother, and I'm pretty fun to hang around. And the mosquitoes, that's why they make birdshot.
I know.
Okay.
We got to get out. We're going to try to get out of this state eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, so Stuart's not got a bad point.
Stewart said an 870 with a 28-inch smooth with chokes, 18-inch tactical, and an 18-inch rifle is the ultimate apocalypse firearm. That's actually what he was trying to encourage me to buy instead of the A300.
You can do the same thing with the A300 though, and now you've got a semi-auto 1 ounce slug delivery system.
Can you change the barrel for that short 19-inch to a longer one on A300 though?
Yes, you can, because the A300 was a duck and goose gun before it was a tactical shotgun.
That might actually be worth thinking about.
The A300 action has been around for like 20 something years. They've got
Yeah.
28-inch barrels down to 18-inch barrels. Well, 18 and a half, I think.
I think it's 19, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Point is.
whatever it is. It's short tactical barrel all the way out to full range goose barrels. They've got chokes for them anywhere from cylinder all the way to turkey.
So Joe just said they had breakfast with me, my family, and I am entertaining. I was actually trying my best to like not be a complete weirdo that morning, but you know, my wife has social graces in the family. I'm just the moron.
It is all about balance.
Yes. Okay, so I see here some birdshot seems prudent now that we step into this drone apocalypse. So this has been my recent thing with my shotgun is first of all, I went and bought locally some Winchester target loads, and they were like that mid velocity, like 1,250 feet per second.
Yeah, the like number 8 or number 7.
7.5 in this case.
Okay, 7.5. Yeah, it's a very common target load.
Yeah. And that's what I was looking for because I wanted something that like I could say, okay, well, it run this, and if it'll run this, it should be able to run things on your side of the margin. But I got some of that. I ran through my A300. By the way, it freaking digested perfectly. Didn't bitch, didn't complain, ran it perfectly. I mean, it ran it perfectly. Locked the bolt back on an empty magazine tube. It was perfect. So
I think
now
what I used for that class at MDFI was 1,150 feet per second federal target loads, and not a single malfunction all day. 300 rounds.
So now that I know that my A300 will run it reliably, now I'm looking at a factory Beretta choke, probably a modified. I think is kind of the consensus from.
You should have a modified right now.
I don't. That gun only came with one choke, and it was a cylinder choke.
Really?
Cylinder.
Mine came with a modified.
I'll have to review the number of notches in the choke, but I'm pretty sure it's a cylinder.
Unless I mistranslated mine.
One of us might be mistaken,
or
neither of us is.
Because I'm pretty sure that the A300 ships with a modified cylinder choke.
I thought it was a cylinder choke.
Yeah, well, either way, I mean, I would look at. I'm going to be buying a full choke kit for my A300. I'm going to be getting everything from cylinder to turkey.
See, I really don't think I would use most of those chokes. I'm mostly, although, you know, maybe that would be the thing to do depending on cost, would just be to suck it up and buy the damn kit.
It is cheaper to buy the kit than to buy onesie twosies.
I'm not shocked by that. But what I'm really thinking about is like, if I get the chokes for it, and if I can find the choke that makes this thing run target loads reasonably tight, then I would have another option for utilizing this A300. Because currently, with the cylinder choke that I'm pretty sure is in it, this thing, like I said, at 15 yards, it put almost every pellet in an 8 ring. It was surprisingly tight at that range.
That is pretty
Conversely, tight. I shot 3 shots of that target load, and it covered the entire target, not just the entire silhouette, the paper. It peppered the entire thing. It went everywhere. Like,
and this is what it's supposed to do.
But Stewart did indicate that that's the thing about shotguns and chokes is that normally a choke, it'll tighten up birdshot, and it has the opposite effect on birdshot. It makes it start flinging pellets in all directions. Buckshot. That's what I meant. So
the bigger the pellet, the tighter choke makes it spread. The smaller the pellet, the tighter the choke brings the spread together.
Freaking shotguns are black magic.
Well, it's because you're trying to squeeze a bunch of golf balls through a 2-inch pipe versus squeezing a bunch of marbles through a 2-inch pipe. There's just more room to compress those things down. That's the deal.
I suppose that makes sense. And we've already talked about chokes, so we've gone out of order like we usually do.
It's fine. Order's irrelevant.
Yeah. Now, the only other thing I'm thinking about, and I'll send you the link for it. It's an interesting idea. There's actually a company I found that makes they make aftermarket chokes for a variety of shotguns, including the A300, and they make one they call the Buck Kicker for the A300.
Okay.
It is an extended ported choke made specifically for buckshot. So it's meant to mitigate recoil, of which the A300 doesn't have a ton of it to begin with, and to make the that buckshot pattern a little bit tighter.
I'm not sure the pressures in a shotgun are high enough for a ported barrel to make much of a difference, but I will be interested to try it.
I will send you the link so you can peruse it. It's like the only other
Depending on
thing.
cost, I might buy it for science.
Yeah, I mean, other than just really wanting to get like the perfect choke that makes this thing spit out birdshot in a reasonable fashion, that's the only other thing I've even thought about. But I mean, chokes are one of those weird things that, me being a former rifleman coming into the shotgun world, it's kind of like voodoo to me, because it's like, what do you mean you shove something in the barrel that influences how the shot patterns? Because like, if you just shove random shit into a rifle barrel, that's how you banana peel the rifle. You're not supposed to do that. But then the shotgun guys are all like, yeah, you just screw this thing in and it does this.
It does witchcraft inside, and it makes it kill birds better. Yes.
Yes. It is seriously, it's been an interesting transition from a rifleman to a shotgun guy, because
I told you to convert you.
I've learned things that still don't make any sense to me. Like, what do you mean that's the way? Oh, by the way, I'm a nerd. We all know this. I admit this. I'm not even ashamed of it anymore. Looking at how the internal mechanism of a shotgun works is, I swear to Christ, it's like a Rube Goldberg machine that spits out lead.
As a manufacturing guy, it is a beautiful piece of technology. It is so beautiful the way that thing works. You could not make that lifter mechanism more simple without making it worse. It is so wonderful.
I will say that, like, in the past, I've referred to double action revolvers as Rube Goldberg machines, because, like, if you have never taken the side plate off of a Smith & Wesson revolver and looked at all the bell cranks and the gears and the Canuter valve and the squirrel with the with the kazoo and all the crazy shit that's going on inside of there that they use to make this thing rotate the cylinder and spit out bullets, the inside of a double action revolver is witchcraft. Shotguns are that all over again, just with bigger parts.
They are.
But at the same time, they're so deceivingly simple. It's interesting. Stuart saying, put a duckbill muzzle device on it.
Blunderbuss?
Why not? Stuart was alive when they designed the blunderbuss.
Well, that makes sense.
For anybody in the audience, Stuart is the oldest human being I know. He was there. He was John Moses Browning, apprenticed under Stewart. He's going to kick my ass one of these days when he meets me in person.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. So 2 more things. Ammo carriers. You were holding up one earlier, and we were debating whether or not YouTube was going to shut down our feed.
This, I think, is probably one of the better ammo carriers you can get. It's incredibly simple. It's backed with it's elastic backed with Velcro. You buy some industrial Velcro and stick it on the side of your shotgun. If you buy an A300, it comes with a piece of Velcro to stick on the side of your shotgun. It's great. It's laser cut. It looks really nice on your shotgun. And you can just swap these things out. Best thing about these suckers, they fit in a 30-round mag pouch if your state ends up deciding to be dick waffles like mine did. And I can't use 30-round AR mags anymore. Alrighty then, 7-round 12-gauge shotgun cards. You can fit one on your receiver. You can fit one on your stock if you're feeling extra spicy for home defense. If you are able to have time to put your plate carrier on, great. Now you got mag pouches full of 12-gauge.
The funny part about 12 gauge is that if you're talking about your traditional 9-pellet buckshot, you actually have 27 projectiles. Which, no. I am totally screwing up math. 7 times 9, you have 63 projectiles. Twice as much as an AR with a 30-round magazine. Twice as much.
Yeah, so you've got 5 in the tube, 1 in the chamber, 1 ghost load. You've got 7 on the receiver. You've got 7 on the stock of your shotgun.
No, the A300 7 plus 1.
Not in Illinois.
Oh, you poor bastard. I didn't mean to rub that in.
Oh, I know. I know. It took me an extra 2.5 weeks to get my A300 because I had to buy a 5-round neutered version.
That's
And
why they gave you
apparently,
that's why they gave you a $200 break on the price, you know, so they wouldn't kick
yeah,
in the balls twice.
pretty much, yeah. But either way, let's be realistic here. There are very few problems in life that 5 plus 1 plus a ghost load of 12 gauge will not solve.
That's valid. That's valid. As far as like ammo carriers for shotguns, like I don't even know if at this point we can justify the old school like plastic side saddles. The
They have
ability.
their place. There are versions of that now that are Velcro backed, just like these. And supposedly they do retain your shotguns a little bit better. Joe asked if you can get a tube extension in Illinois. Technically, no.
Realistically,
Realistically, good luck to Pritzker searching every UPS, FedEx, and USPS package coming to anyone's home. They're not a controlled item. Most manufacturers don't check because that's on you. So you do you and don't admit to it on the internet.
mm-mm. Never admit to anything on the internet. And so the very last thing, and this is where I return the favor for Nick participating in my shaming and bullying to force me to get an A300. Red dots on shotguns are a war crime.
They are the best kind of war crime.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you that, like, and this has been like the final and the most recent addition to my A300 has been to go ahead and get a Scalar Works mount on it and put a Holosun 507 comp. I'm going to postulate for a moment, and I understand that there are people that have feelings about Holosuns. You like things that are made in America, and I'm not mad at you. I get it. But I'm going to suggest that the reticle system that Holosun has in that 507 comp, which if I remember correctly, is a 2 MOA dot with a 30 MOA circle around it. That is freaking tailor made for shotguns. It is so fast. It is so quick to freaking line up in that optic. And because of that 30 MOA dot, when you're bringing the shotgun back down at a recoil, your eye zeroes in on it so fast. Like, red dots on shotguns are war crimes.
Look, I've been saying it for years. Donut to death plus a center pip is the optimum red dot sight for a long arm. With a AR-15, till the recent ban went into effect, I was using a Vortex Spitfire 1X 32 mil donut with a pinpoint in the center. If you are within 50 yards and that donut is on your target, pull the trigger. You're going to make a center mass hit.
Yep.
If you're at 300 yards and that center pip is on their head, pull the trigger. You're going to make a torso hit. It is perfect for anything at a reasonable range with a carbine. It is even more perfect with a shotgun because if you can set it up so that your slug is your center pip and your ring is your 7-yard group with your double lot, you can't go wrong. You don't have to re-zero for slugs or buck. You don't have to really re-zero for birdshot because you can probably windage that out if you're changing out your choke. I haven't done any 12 gauge shooting against clays with a red dot yet because I'm waiting for budgetary reasons for my red dot. No, I'm pretty sure you can have. Joe asked if you can have a red dot in Illinois. I'm pretty sure you can. I'm not aware of that being made illegal in Illinois. But then again, the state police doesn't know what's illegal in Illinois currently.
That is a good point.
They're not even sure how to enforce it or what to enforce.
But I will say that the other pro to having a red dot on a shotgun is that what a red dot does that even I didn't really appreciate when I first started getting into red dots. But what a red dot does is it puts your aiming reticle and your target in the same plane of view. So, or the same plane of
rear
focus.
sight.
So, to me, like you can train yourself even with iron sights to shoot with both eyes open. It's difficult in my experience. It takes a lot of training, a lot of practice, because your eye and your brain are constantly fighting over what's supposed to be in focus. But with a red dot, you open up both your eyes and you just see this hovering red dot over your target. And the weird part is that me having a pretty significant astigmatism, red dots normally looks like starburst. And I just have to like know that the very center of that starburst is where the bullet's going to go and figure life out. Or the brightest part of that starburst is where the bullet's going to go, whether that's on center or not. But in this case, when I shoot with both eyes open with this red dot, with this shotgun, it looks perfectly clear when both my eyes are open. And I have not figured out why that is. An optometrist might know. All I know is that in practice at the range, I was able to have both eyes open, full field of view, because I'm using this little bitty, like an RMR style micro red dot with a really thin bezel, with a really big window that doesn't really obscure much. And I can see the entire range. And I just see this little circle and pip sitting there over my target. That's why I say red dots on shotguns are war crimes. I will be the first to admit that when I first got this shotgun, first took it out to the range with iron sights, the factory irons are good.
They are really surprisingly good.
They are
plastic, which I'm not a fan of, and I will be replacing them with steel. On a defensive weapon, I do not accept plastic sights.
And yet, in spite of that, how many police departments around the country have Glocks with plastic sights in them?
How many police departments across the country have officers that can't hit a torso target under a time constraint?
It's a different discussion. That's a different discussion.
It's the same discussion. If we're going to talk about the performance of police departments and the equipment they use, we have to discuss the fact that the officers do not perform up to a level of a basic IDPA shooter.
But isn't the fact that the officers can't hit the broadside of the barn and drop their guns more than shoot them indicative of the durability of the weapon?
Of the Glock, yes.
It's like it's like field testing anything with Marines. If they can't lose it, break it, or get it pregnant, then it's soldier proof.
I'm not sure any object on the planet has yet to meet that criteria aside from the P58 can opener.
Which is why it's the perfect implement. Somebody out there is a Marine who is giggling because the rest of y'all who have your feelings hurt are not Marines. I grew up with a lot of Marines, and it is impossible to hurt their feelings because they weren't issued any.
Right. The guy that gave me all that shotgun ammo, Marine.
Yes.
He would love that joke.
God bless my devil dogs out there. I wasn't one. I couldn't fit my head in the jar, so I failed the test. I had to go into the Army instead.
It happens.
Yeah.
Gotta love them.
But yeah, I mean, I hear you about the plastic sights. All I'm going to say is, like, if you got an A300 and out of the box you told me, dude, the irons in air quotes, the open sights are fine. I don't need a red dot. I don't know if I fight you too much on them.
Yeah,
they work. They're shockingly good for what they are.
They're intuitive. They're easily visible. Their size is appropriate for a 12 gauge at reasonable self-defense ranges. You are not going to precision pick headshots at 200 yards. You're not going to. That's not the purpose of this shotgun.
But even that being said, at 15 yards, those open sights put a slug exactly where I was aiming. Like no Kentucky wind is necessary. Yeah, they are out of the box, shockingly good.
But personally, aside from a sling, that shotgun needs nothing out of the box to be a functional self-defense tool.
Some S-TAC ammo carriers.
Yeah, but I mean, if a guy was going to, back pocket of his jeans or front pocket of his hoodie load it, there were guys at the class that had no shell carriers. Guys running a 1301, he's loading out of his hoodie pocket.
That is
it works. It works.
I will allow that red dots are not in the mandatory category for this shotgun or a shotgun. I will just say,
highly encouraged category.
I'm gonna tell you that for $100 for scalar work mounts, and then, I mean, what does a Holosun 407 cost?
On Amazon, $350. $311 on Amazon if you're willing to pay Amazon prices.
I've seen them cheaper than that, to be
Yeah,
honest.
you can get. I'm just saying, if you want it tomorrow, Amazon will have it to you for $300.
Yeah. But I mean, you could go get a bargain basement Hollow Sun 407. Hell, if you want to, I mean, you could look at some like Gideon Optics or Swamp Fox or some of the lesser
Eddie's been
known
recommending
Zero
Zero Tech.
Tech. Yeah.
I'm still on the fence about that, on whether or not I want to try that for the shotgun.
So-
They are telling me, the guys from Zero Tech are telling me that I can't break it with 12 gauge recoil.
And so when we have that discussion about putting a red dot on a shotgun, like that is the only thing that worries me. It's like putting a red dot on a freaking 50 BMG. You're not talking about the same recoil forces, first of all, that like a 9mm handgun is going to induce with the slide going back and forth. And we are way out of pocket when we compare it to something like a 5.56 out of a 16-inch carbine. So like the recoil forces are so much more violent. I have trust issues with less than a certain quality level of a red dot. Put it that way. I think a Hollow Sun, a Trigicon, an Aim Point. I think any of those should be
Vortex.
Vortex. I have
for their warranty, man. I have beaten the absolute piss out of my Vortex optics, and I have yet to have one fail. But battery hungry, yes, but having one fail, never.
So the only concern I have, and this isn't personal, this is secondhand, but I have talked to a person that has, I can't remember which, what they call it, but it's like their version of an RMR.
Yeah. I
have heard secondhand that one does not have the durability that the rest of the Swamp Fox red dots have. Like
it's possible.
What I have back there on that AR is a Strike Fire 2. Which is basically a copy of like an old Aim Point comp. And it's enormous. It's heavy. It uses a CR2 battery, which is the only thing in my entire inventory that takes that god-awful thing. But it works, and it's taken a lot of beatings, so I can't complain too loudly. I don't know. I would just say that, like, whatever red dot you think about for a shotgun, just go into it understanding that you are going to torture test this optic because of the firearm you're putting it on, and choose accordingly.
And I would say that be mindful of the reticle. I highly recommend the 30 to 32 MOA donut with the center pip. For shotguns, there's no reason to deviate from that. There's not really a huge benefit to going to a single dot, either large or small. It's not like a pistol. You know, it's nice to be able to pattern your shotgun and know that all of your pellets are going to be inside of that donut, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I'll also say that, like, the one thing I can tell you is that no matter what red dot you think about putting on a shotgun, I've been super impressed with Scalar Works mount. Reptilia makes another good one, and there's a couple of others out there that I've heard of that seem to be well liked. I'll be honest, having put Scalar Works on my shotgun, that's the only one I'll recommend. So this might sound weird, but like I notice things when I talk about a product that like are outside of what the actual product is. And what really grabbed me about Scalar Works is, Nick, if you meet a person and you notice like their office is like hyper organized, everything's put away, everything's boxed up or pinned up, everything's labeled, you start to get a feeling for that person based on their workspace, right?
Absolutely.
When you open the Scalar Works box that mount comes in, every single thing is in its own individual package. Everything is labeled. Everything is stupid proof. The mount has the torch specs written on it.
Oh, that's nice.
So what I look at is, and if you read the instructions, it makes it almost freaking idiot proof. I appreciate the fact that I see obvious efforts made to make the process of installing this mount on your shotgun as painless as humanly possible. And that catches my attention. So like for that, I haven't handled a Reptilia. They probably make a fine product. Everybody tells me they do. But when I open up the box at Scalar Works and I see they include the Torx bits you need, they include all the screws. The screws already have Loctite applied to them. The torque spec is written on the mount. All those things catch my attention. And I'm like, oh, you guys put some thought into making this dummy proof.
You know, that this reminds me of a quote from my grandfather. I started working at his machine shop when I was 13. And one thing he taught me and he insisted on was the packaging is the first thing your customer will see, and that sets the expectation for your product. And that is a lesson that I have tried to apply to life in general. You know, how you present yourself is the first thing that you are going to get as far as impression wise. And if you screw that up, you got ground to make up. But if you do it well, that can assist you. Now, Joe brings up a really good point. What is patterning a shotgun? What it is taking loads from your shotgun at a known range, a known distance, and firing them and seeing where the pellets fall. Phil's shotgun, using the Winchester ammo at 7 yards. What did you have, Phil?
I kept all my rounds inside of a 9 ring on an IPSC target.
On the exact same make and model of shotgun, with the exact same make and model of ammunition, I had them all in an 8 or a 7 ring, depending on the shot. That's a pretty significant difference. We have the same shotgun. We're shooting the same ammo.
Mm-hmm.
Shotguns are weird like that because you have a cluster of pellets that you're forcing down a barrel. So what you do is you buy a number of different ammos in the type you want, say double-aught buck. So I bought a bunch of this Winchester Military Overrun because it was cheap. It's double-aught. It's probably going to send. No problem. I've also got some Federal Flight Control 8 pellet on the way. I've got some Federal Flight Control, some regular 9 pellet on the way. So
you and I need to talk about that Federal 8 pellet.
It's magic. It is like shooting slugs at 12 yards.
We need to talk about where the hell you found some, because I've been looking.
I got a guy. Don't worry about it.
You need to introduce me to your guy, Nick. You've been holding out.
I bought it all.
You son of a bitch.
He only had 2 boxes. He only had 2 boxes. And besides, it was from Illinois, so you'd have to get a background check to get it anyway.
Oh, I hate your freaking state more than I already did.
We got to get a background check every time we buy ammo now. You know how many background checks I've had this year? It's gotten ridiculous.
As many as your governor's eating cheeseburgers, apparently. Yes, that's a fat joke, and I don't care.
A lot of cheeseburgers. I don't know if my budget can keep up with his cheeseburger consumption, but we're getting close. We're trying. No, next time I find some online, I will let you know. Lucky Gunner was the last place I found it online, but I knew a guy a couple towns over that had it. That could be the difference, Stuart. Perfect. If for some reason Phil ended up with a cylinder choke and mine ended up with modified, my slightly tighter choke shooting double-aught may be the reason why I'm getting a slightly larger pellet spread.
So
perfect, Stuart. I need to pull that out and find out.
So I will pull the choke out of my shotgun literally as soon as we wrap up, because now I
find my choke wrench.
Now I'm extremely curious if you and I have different chokes in that shotgun. But that's
we do. That gives me a question about Beretta's quality control.
I wonder,
and it may be the difference of 5 tube and Ultima Patrol 7 tube, because it's technically 2 different models of shotgun.
That's what I'm wondering. Because I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to make excuses for Beretta, but maybe that is the difference.
It could be the difference.
I don't know. But I am very curious, because I thought I had a cylinder choke in mind, but now we're gonna go. And for those of you who have Berettas with a mobile choke system, for what I recall, the number of notches in the top of the choke tells you what it is. But having had mine out of the shotgun once or twice, it doesn't look like it's necking much down. So I don't know. I'll pull it out and I'll let you know, Nick. But I'm curious.
I mean, everything I'm looking at online here, because I'm Googling as we speak right now, it seems that the Ultima, which is not the Ultima Patrol, comes with a modified cylinder, and the Ultima Patrol comes with a cylinder choke, perhaps.
And I have an Ultima Patrol.
and I have an Ultima. The difference is the 2-round mag tube extension.
Oh, we might have just uncovered it. But yeah, dude, pull
That
your
could be it. I will when I find my choke wrench. It is in my safe somewhere. It is a big safe.
I keep mine with all my cleaning supplies on my workbench. Seemed like a good place to keep it.
Probably wise. I just stuck it in my safe because this is my first shotgun with an interchangeable choke. So I didn't know what to do with it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm very curious what choke is in your shotgun, because if that's the case, then
I need a
key to
cylinder.
a cylinder choke might be all you need to tighten up your barrel a little bit. I mean,
And if that means this 500 rounds of Winchester military overrun can put me in a like 6-inch pattern, that'd be very, very nice.
I mean, like I said, that's every shotgun patterns differently. What I can tell you is that mine seems pretty consistent, 1 inch per yard, but that's not a
very common.
But that's not a hard fast rule, because it didn't make a 15-inch circle at 15 yards. It was smaller than that. So
yeah,
that I gotta admit that this Winchester milsurp that I got, and by the way, I overran you and I got 3 cases of it. I've shot a couple of boxes, but it's like, what, 65 cents a shell for a 9-pellet double-aught buck.
It's hard to argue.
It's so freaking economical. Like, once I got the first case and I ran it through my gun and my gun seemed to like it, I was like, yes, my
One
paycheck
thing to notice,
is going to be upset.
Some of it is steel cup instead of brass.
Yeah.
So you're not going to be able to reload it if you are a shotgun reloading guy, and be cautious of moisture.
I'm not, and I don't intend to be, because reloading
cautious
center
of
fires.
Moisture?
No, I mean reloading. I am not buying a whole nother reloading set to reload shotgun. Nope.
I probably will, just to make overly complicated and unnecessarily heavy shooting slugs.
No, I'm resisting the urge.
Do it.
No.
I'm just saying.
No.
Full brass, 12 gauge Hellbore rounds.
Listen, y'all have already shamed me into buying a shotgun.
Copper. 400 grain monolithic copper.
Y'all have already shamed me into buying a shotgun. You were not shaming me into reloading for shotgun. I got to draw the line someplace.
Nonsense. There's no line to be drawn here.
There is.
I'm getting encouragement from third-party sources.
Well, he's hardly trustworthy. I mean, he's a little sketchy compared to me.
That's fine. I'm a little sketchy.
We all are. We're all a little shady. Okay, so I don't know what else we could really talk about in the realm of shotguns. I mean, the truth of the matter is like, I will be the first to admit I came into the shotgun world with some preconceived notions that were partially based in bullcrap and partially based in like my own limited experience. And once I opened my mind and started thinking about, okay, what is a real, because again, coming from like that military experience, my mindset was, well, if you can't shoot at 300 meters, then what's the point? But then you start measuring the inside of your house and you're like, my house isn't 300 meters wide.
No, it is not. And if it is, congratulations, sir.
Yeah. seven freaking yards will get you from the front door to my bedroom. So if I can control 7 meters or 7 yards, I'm golden. And when you start thinking about things in terms of that, oh, well, this cheap Winchester milsurp double-aught buck, it makes a 9-inch circle at 7 yards. It's like, but a 9-inch circle is 9 freaking pellets hitting the body at 7 yards at 1,350 feet per second.
There's an awful lot of vital organs in a 9-inch circle.
Yeah, that really is kind of like what has won me over towards the shotgun world. Is like, it is.
I wasn't a shotgun guy either, man.
Yeah,
I got forced into it. And honestly, I love it now. It is one of my favorite firearms in my safe right now.
I still don't know that I have any kind of like emotional or particular attachment to a shotgun, only because like, to me, everything is like tools in a toolbox.
Oh, sure. But I'm saying
But
the effectiveness is undeniable.
but that's what I was going to say. Like I think what has won me over is if I look at everything in terms of the capability it grants you, what a 12 gauge is to me is the ability to put more violence on target faster at realistic home defense ranges than any other firearm in my inventory. And I've always been really big about this does something, this doesn't. That's why it's here, because these there is no one firearm that does everything perfectly. Well, I don't have anything else that can put 430 grains of violence onto a target in one shot. And to go a little bit
That's
further,
9.556 round or
yeah.
8.556 rounds rounded up.
But let's put this in terms, okay? A shot, the Beretta A300, if you don't live in Cuckville, Illinois, sorry, will hold.
It is Cuck State.
But mine will hold. You can ghost load mine with 7 in the magazine and 1 on the lifter and an empty chamber. If you really want to be
9.
creative, you could put 9 into it. But let's make 8. Let's make it 8 because it makes the math nice and simple. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
8 1-ounce slugs or 8 1-ounce buckshot rounds.
Half a pound.
That is the ability to put half a pound of lead at 1,300 feet per second plus on target in seconds. There's no other firearm in my inventory that can do that. So the shotgun has won me over by the fact that yes, Joe has to quote Clint Smith. Clint, not Clint.
The man is accurate.
Look, Clint Smith.
It is Clint, though.
I will say that if anybody has never heard of Clint Smith, your parents deserve to be slapped. You should go to YouTube and you should search for a place called Thunder Ranch.
He's an experience.
Clint Smith is a national treasure.
He is.
He said, with the right load at the right range, we'll remove chunks of your opponent and throw it on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Shotguns are an incredibly devastating thing. And, you know, when we were talking about ammo, we didn't even talk about like breaching rounds, less than lethal, or any of the other stuff that's out there.
If you're going to talk less than lethals, personally, in a home defense situation, I think less than lethals are a waste of time and a liability. Because regardless of what load you put in a firearm, if you shoot it at a person, even if it is a less than lethal or less lethal, the DA is going to prosecute you as though you fired a lethal round. So you might as well use the real thing.
I thought about this. I agree with you, except in one case.
Sure.
If you are in that unique situation where you have every legal right to send somebody to meet their maker.
Sure.
But it's a person you really, really, really don't want to shoot, like a child or a friend or a close family member.
My friends don't usually put me in situations where I'm pulling a 12 gauge. Phil, we need to talk about your friends and not just me.
Y'all are my friends and y'all are all psychotic. But what I'm saying is, like, imagine yourself if you're in that situation where, like, I really don't want to end this person's life, but I cannot allow them to harm me or harm somebody else. In that narrow situation, I can justify less than lethal ammo because I am well within my legal rights to send them to meet Jesus. Mm-hmm. I really don't want to kill them unless I have to.
That's fair.
And I admit that is a very narrow scenario. But I thought about this and thought to myself, is there any possible justification for this? And that was the one I came up with was, what if you're dealing with like, I have a daughter. Let's say I have a crazy ass ex-boyfriend or a crazy ass boyfriend who's trying to break in through the front door. Daughter doesn't want me to shoot him. I might not want to shoot him unless he's a dirtbag, in which case he'd already be occupying a hole in the backyard. But what if I'm in that situation where this person is trying to force entry to my home? Let's say they're having a psychotic break. They're having a mental issue. They're off their meds. I know this person would not want to harm me under normal circumstances, but given the unique situation, I have to stop them. I don't want to kill them if I don't have to. Sure. In that narrow circumstance, I can see less lethal ammo. Because that's the way the police officers use it. It's within their use of force and within their force continuum, they are authorized to use this ammo. They really don't want to kill you if they don't have to.
My biggest problem with that is most less lethal ammos will not reliably cycle a semi-auto shotgun.
True.
And
And that's
do
why I
you have 1 to 2 other officers backing you up at home with
that
lethal
is the
weapons
other,
drawn?
that is the other side of that equation,
So
unfortunately.
if it doesn't work and your shotgun does not cycle, what are your options? Now you have to do an emergency reload. How fast can you emergency reload? In a team-based situation with other officers, makes sense. Totally understandable. It is, if I ever, and I really hope this never occurs, I'm in a home defense situation, I do not have a team backing me up. I have my wife on the phone with 911. I have me and whatever's in my hands. I don't have a backstop. I am the backstop.
Hmm.
So to me, if I am taking the choice of a lethal option, of which shotguns are a very lethal option, we're not playing around with less than lethals anymore.
No, that's a perfectly fair argument. I'm just,
And
I
you know
really
what?
racked my brain to try to figure out like what is that use case for less than lethal, and that's the only thing I can come up with. And again, I put myself in that position of like, if it was my daughter having a psychotic break,
Sure.
I would roll the dice on less than lethal.
Absolutely. If
I
I
would
had children,
hon-
I could understand that.
honestly, I would probably roll the dice on trying to subdue her with my bare hands and not even have to use the shotgun. Like I would figure out, I would be willing to put myself at risk of substantial harm to not have to end her life.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I agree. But at that point, I'm not a father.
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't have children. If I did, I can understand that. But at that point, I probably am not grabbing a shotgun. I am probably going to go hands on.
Yeah.
If it was my child or like a niece and nephew, I'm a pretty big, strong guy.
I don't like most of my nieces and nephews that much.
Yeah, I know, but I don't have any of those either. The only one that's on the way has not been born yet, so I'm pretty sure I can overpower a
fetus.
fetus. Yeah, pretty sure. Pretty sure. I'm a pretty big guy. I lift heavy things a lot. I'm fairly certain I can handle a fetus or like
Oh,
a young teenager. That's probably not going to be a problem in a hands-on situation, even if they had a weapon. I mean, unless they have a firearm, in which case we have escalated well beyond reasonable. You know.
before we walk this one out, this is another good one. Is a loose bull in
Oh,
the yard you want to drive off? Yeah, I mean,
that's
if
fair.
nothing else, use less lethal for animal control, where you just need
Yeah,
something to
animal
get the hell
control.
out of your yard without killing
That
it.
is, I did not think of animal control. That is very reasonable because there are very few animals that when you whack them with something aren't going to run off.
Yep. All right. Well, I guess let's go ahead and start working this one out the door. I mean, we could sit here for another half an hour and think of what we missed when it comes to shotguns. I mean, I feel like it's a big
Not
topic,
many
and
things. The spread's pretty good.
yeah. But I do want to find somebody we can bring on to like talk the topic a little bit that has a bit more experience. I just like what has captivated me about shotguns is that it's the
Trek.
ability to put see, I haven't taken a professional shotgun class. You have. To
I
me,
have.
it is
Perfect.
110% the payload delivery capability of a 12 gauge relative to a variety of firearms I've handled, most of which I can't play with anymore because, NFA tax stamps and government regulation, things like that. But the point remains, it's the ability to put more violence on target than anything else in my safe at very reasonable home defense ranges. It's an impressive payload delivery system that I've really taken to. I think that for the person out there that, especially if you live in a state where, like, frankly, you need to toss your politicians into a volcano because they keep passing gun control laws. But if you're in that place where, I don't want to give Uncle Joe his due, but that 12 gauge makes a hell of an argument if
It
you're in a
does.
place where an AR-15 can't. And I would say that I have both those options available to me. I think at this point, if I didn't need to run night vision, I might grab the shotgun first.
Single trigger pull efficacy in a home situation at home ranges, shotgun is probably going to be more lethal faster.
Yeah.
Fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at that, I try to decide on the most effective tool for the job in the least time possible. That's why I have a Sawzall for when I do demo work. And shotgun, it's awful hard to argue with a 1 ounce payload.
It does seem to solve the argument.
I mean, even if someone's wearing armor, the muzzle, the energy delivered on target is enough to at least make them question their life choices.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to argue that, just Google backface deformation.
Yeah.
It ain't going to penetrate the armor.
No, because it's going to make you miserable.
But it's going to smash the armor up against things that aren't made of steel or ceramic. Put it that way. All right. Let's go ahead and punt this one out the door. Matter of Fact's podcast. This is my boomstick. And if you haven't bought a shotgun yet, you should probably consider that. And if you have bought a shotgun and you have not committed a war crime by putting a red dot on it, then I'm going to judge you out loud repeatedly until you give in, because that's the treatment I got from all of you sadists out there when I put off buying a shotgun for this long, until you finally shame me into it. So now I'm going to return the favor.
Good. We deserve it.
Matter of fact, it's going out the door. Good night, everybody.
Night.